Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Uncle K. So today we're going to do an interesting part called evaluating, right? So evaluating, it's all about knowing the nature of your board, the nature of your pieces, and where are they placed, and if are you safe or are you not, right? Are your pieces active or are they not active, right? Because by understanding the nature of your position, you can know if you can attack or defend. Before you calculate or do anything, you just know you need to evaluate, right? Also, another thing to take into consideration when evaluating, we're gonna focus on this aspect for now. Like, we're gonna count material first. Are we having equal material? If you have equal material, therefore you don't worry a lot. If you have more material, therefore you can capitalize on that and win your game. If you have less material, find a way to get your material back, right? And also, if you are losing on material, avoid exchanging a lot, because exchanging will simplify your game for your opponent to win. Do you get that? If you're behind with material, avoid exchanging a lot, because if you exchange a lot, your opponent will be having an easy position. You'll simplify the position for him to win because he's already winning, right? So we don't simplify the game for him. Check the pieces placement. The pieces, they must be placed in a proper position, in a proper place. In a certain game, your knight must be somewhere. In a certain game, your bishop must be somewhere. So piece placement is very important. Also, the weak squares, right, and the pawn structure. These two, they go hand in hand, right? But I'm not gonna cover them now. I'm gonna cover them in the next, probably the next video or another one, because the pawn structure is the one which is going to determine if you have the weak squares or not, right? So here we're gonna check how to place our pieces and how to play with your knight, your bishop, and every other piece, right? So the first point which we're gonna cover, which is gonna be about this video, check the piece placement. The good pieces, my phone is making noise. The good pieces are your rooks on open files or on semi-open files, or the rook on the 7th rank, right? But I'm gonna show you on pictures. The knight must be an outpost. The bishop must have a good diagonal, a long diagonal, right? Also, king safety. Your king must be on a safe square. Bad pieces, your bishop blocked by its own pawns, because remember we said that the bishop needs what? It needs long diagonals, right? So we don't need our bishop to be blocked by any piece, okay? The knights on the edge are bad because they have limited squares, right? The rooks without open files, that's not where we want them. We want our rooks to be active. Lack of development is the worst case scenario. Okay, so we move forward. Now here we are about the good knight and the bad knight. So this one is a good knight here. Why is it a good knight? Because it is an outpost. What is an outpost? It's a knight which cannot be removed by any pawn. There's no pawn which can remove this knight. Or in that case, in this special case scenario, not even the bishop or any other piece, unless you have to give away your queen, of which is not ideal, right? So this knight is powerful here. It's an outpost and it is in the center. So the knight on the center, and which is not removed by any pawn, it's a good knight, right? And it has many squares since it is on the center, right? This one is a bad knight. Why is it a bad knight? It is on the edge and it has limited squares, right? And it can be taken by the bishop at some point, and when you take with the pawn, you're gonna have what you call a double pawn. We don't want that. So we don't want our knights on edges because they have limited squares. We want our knights as much as possible to control the center and to be the outpost whenever we can, right? Forward we move. Good bishop and bad bishop. This one is a good bishop. Why is it a good bishop? Because it has a long diagonal, right? It's controlling the light squares, and also on the brighter side, it is threatening the king, right? And now it is pinned. It has pinned the bishop, the pawn here. This pawn cannot move, right? So this one is a good knight. It is a good knight because it has a long diagonal. But we can try and make it to be a bad knight by what? By closing the diagonal. Bring the knight here, bring the knight here, right? Because we know that this knight is powerful, so we're gonna make it to be weak by bringing the knight here, right? So we need your knight on the long diagonals. This one is a bad knight, bad bishop. I mean to say, did I say knight here? No, we're talking about the bishop. This one is a bad bishop because it has no long diagonal. Its own pawns and opponent's pawn close the diagonals for the bishop, so the bishop does not have much of movement, right? Because in theory, bishops are good in open games. You see this game on your left, it's open, right? So that's why the bishop has movement, because by open you're gonna have a long diagonal. But here the knight is good because it is a close game. The knights can have the outpost and stuff, right? But the bishop doesn't have much of a play. So if you're caught up in a position whereby you should exchange your bishop or your knight and you don't know which one to exchange, you look at the position. This one, it's a close position, so it is good to have a knight, not the bishop. So because the bishop doesn't have much of play in a close position, right? You can have a play with your knight in a close position. Perfect. Good rook and bad rook. So here, if I were to analyze the position, I'll say that these rooks are good rooks because we talked about files. This rook has a file, which is a good thing about rooks. You must place your rooks on the files, right? Take, for instance, if your rook was here, you're gonna bring it to this E and control the file, right? Also, the rooks are good on the 7th rank or the 2nd rank. Do you get that? Because this is the 7th rank for white, it's good. But if you are black, your rook is supposed to be on the 2nd rank. The nice thing about the rook on the 2nd rank, it is threatening to take the pawns, also limiting the king's movement. And also, if another rook comes, you're threatening checkmate and just checks and to take more pawns, right? So these ones are bad rooks. First one, this one is locked. It doesn't have a file, it doesn't have a semi-file, it doesn't have a rank, right? Also, this one is not controlling any file or any rank, right? So black is just passive here, he will just protect. But here in this game, we can prove that indeed a rook on the 2nd rank is powerful. Because now, this, if it wasn't for this rook, this other rook was gonna move, right? Perfect. So the rooks on the 7th rank, the rooks on open or semi-files, they are much good. Another thing about the rooks, they are very good when they are connected. So the moment I play my rook on e7, they are the most powerful rooks, right? So we need what? Connected rooks and semi-open files or open files, or on the 7th or the 2nd rank. Things to learn about the rooks. How to play with the king. This is our last slide, right? I try to be fast here. So here, in an opening or the middle game, you need to protect your king. We normally protect our kings behind our pawn wall by just castling, right? So you see this pawn wall, we put our king behind to protect it. In a middle or opening, right? We don't expose our king, right? But the moment you get into an end game, you need to bring your kings towards the center. As we can see here, you bring your kings towards the center. But as we can see, his king is on g8, it's not towards the center. The king is way too far, right? So since this king is too far, this game is going to be lost for black, because black is nearer, he's at the center, he's going to move closer and take the pawns, right? So just to recap, you need your king to be safe behind the pawns in the middle game and opening, right? But in your end game, bring the kings towards the center. The kings deserve to play, right? So this was about evaluating, knowing where to put your pieces, knowing how much material do you have and stuff, right? Because by evaluating, you'll know that, oh, this is an open game. Now I will need my bishops. Oh, now there's a file here, I'll need to bring my rook. By evaluating, you'll know where to put your pieces. By evaluating, you'll know that, oh, this game is an end game, I need to bring my king, right? By evaluating, you'll see, oh, this one is a close game, I will need to keep my knight must have the outpost, right? So that's what evaluating helps you to do, right? Thank you so much. I hope you have learned something.